All right, I'm here with Evelyn, talking to Chris Bernstorff. Chris has been a guest on the podcast in the past, and we love Chris and we love his art. He has an album coming out May 17th called It's All Joy, and we just wanted to have him share a little bit about one of his tracks called Swing.
Yeah. Swing is the first single from the album. It's really special to me. I wrote it pretty long time ago, and it was supposed to be on an album I have called The Sidewalk Hymns, but I didn't really know what to do with it as a poem, and I kind of gave up on it. And then there's a band called Slow Bullet. They used to be called Spider Mansion, and it's this guy Sam, and he really inspired me. He just makes art and lets it be. And I don't know, his art inspired me to not give up on the poem and just put it out. I started performing it on the Food and Friends 4 tour. And first single, it's just an affirmation of life and a rejection of doubt and the things that hold us back.
Listen, quantify a sunset, spreadsheet hydrangea petals, 5-year plan eucalyptus leaves and watermelon seeds, validate the dew, so many prayers on a single blade of grass which is here today and gone tomorrow, divide the salt water by the fresh, what do you get? I have no idea, but the Louisiana brine daily teaches me to lose myself, fresh and salt indecipherable in the graceful violence of borders dissolving, the joy of being consumed. I don't know if I care who I am in the metaphor anymore, the Mississippi River riding the central U.S. like a 90-foot slide at a water park, or the gentle Gulf tickling a little child's toes for the first time. I'm lost in the song. Go ahead, market me, count my meter, evaluate my rhythm, underline every simile, sell my skin, airbrush my face, a Big Mac before a photo shoot, auction my teeth, donate my kidneys for the tax write-off, and footnote Elliot so it all makes sense. I can't fund a 401k with the joy I get from eating kiwis or save my neighbor's souls watching reruns of The Mentalist. I've never seen a couple survive bankruptcy solely on disciplined hand-holding and kissing at red lights, but there's still something to be said for those things too. And what if all I really needed was a few less plans, and all everyone really needed was a few less policy sessions and a few more songs sung by a few more people serving food? And what if we all took online classes for plastic surgery and secretly replaced everyone's middle finger with a chocolate cake? Crazy, I know, but no more so than holding a knife to the throat of a man holding a knife to your throat and calling it peace. Pop the trunk, blast me with long-winded explanations about life experience, smother me with the wet blankets of security mildewing in the backseat. I've been reading the word, and it's leading me to increasingly ridiculous conclusions, like not being afraid anymore. And did I tell you about the rain? Well, the word showed me all creation singing, and I started listening, and it turns out that's true, and that the rain's been writing poems up on the pavement for forever, or at least since we started paving roads. The rain smashes itself against the earth in full contact, epics and sonnets and villanelles and free verse and forms I don't even know the names for, and I've started reading them now, and now me and the rain and the grass and the Bradford pair are all singing hymns and writing poems together like it's Sunday, and it's been Sunday for 3 days now. What if our logic was really just our gallbladder? Like, you know, it helps sometimes, but really it's just not the most important piece of the puzzle, and most of us really don't know what it's for, how to use it, and most people end up getting that junk cut out after a while anyway, because sometimes it gets infected and kills people. I have weekly tea parties with Flight of the Conchords grandma and all of my emotions and the intangibles that live inside my head, and it turns out when I finally acted on my suspicions and strip searched the whole room, courage really did look like a lion, and fear really had been wearing logic's face for longer than I can ascertain. You see, it turns out logic is dead next to Dr. Dre in Eminem's basement, and fear has been wearing his face. He took lessons from Zartan and sits in the corner sipping Earl Grey and looking over my shoulder, whispering like a snake and leaving the back door open for doubt to come in and raid the pantry. The truth is that joy can't be quantified, and it's what we really were looking for the whole time, and love is reality and gravity in the fabric of the universe. Once it wells up inside us, we just can't help doing anything else but amputating in favor of those chocolate cakes, and prayed for the heart transplants in the book of Ezekiel, and then carving tiny giraffes from all those removed stone hearts and selling them as cute coffee table decorations and using the proceeds to feed the homeless of our communities. What if I just let myself believe what I really do deep down believe, because other people's doubts do not belong to me, and because that father was right? I've got a lot of sons with demons, and my sons need setting free, so Lord, help my unbelief.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I might have interruptions because I'm holding up my 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 Zoom recorder with a can of Crisco.
Ooh.
Oh, Kendra has backup Crisco. She's making oatmeal cream pies. She thought I had her thing of Crisco, but sometimes you just got to innovate and use whatever's available to support your gear.
This is true.
DIY.
I think I lost you, video wise.
Yeah.
I don't know why that happened.
Am I back now?
No.
No? Huh. Yeah, it's saying my camera's on, so.
Yeah, I mean, it probably just may pop back in a second. Who knows?
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm gonna run downstairs and grab my coffee, and then we can get started.
Sounds good, man. All right.
Sick. Depending on how good this Bluetooth is, I might actually still be able to talk to you.
Nice. Yeah, I can still hear you.
Oh, awesome.
Pretty rad. Technology, man.
Something happened.
I think you're cutting out now. All right, we'll wait for Calvin and get his coffee. I have my coffee already. Kind of prepared, Not really, but give Cal a hard time.
Hey.
Oh, hey. What's up, buddy?
Oh, what's up? What's up? I'm back now.
All right, cool. Kendra says hi, Cal.
Hi, Kendra.
He says hi.
Hi, I love you. You look like
I love
really
you too.
cool because there's steam coming up in front of your face.
Does it look extra aesthetic now?
It looks pretty sweet. Yep. So Calvin,
Hey.
we're gonna call our guest here in a few, but figured we'd do some pregame, some pre-show chats real quick.
Hey.
Yeah. So, Cal, what's something you've been learning in life? Doesn't have to be you don't have to Jesus juke it. It could be
It's
anything. It could have to do with your walk, or it could have to do with just things in general. Just that's my question for you for the day.
I guess I am currently in the process of learning is how to balance my personal time with, like, I guess, doing things on my own and intentional time spent with people. Growing up, I was like, I had an older sister growing up, you know what I mean? But like, for the most part, I was very much so like just a kind of quiet kid, you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
even still as an adult and as a 30-year-old man, like, there are parts of me that are still just like that quiet kid that just likes to, I don't know, like self-entertain. So I could like easily spend a day with myself and be fine. Whereas me knowing that that's like a safe place for me, like that's not necessarily good. I need to learn how to, I guess, better balance that with actually seeing people and spending time with them. And that also has a very valuable place. But yeah, I guess, kind of coming to the place where I'm realizing that I've done a lot more hanging out with myself than I had with people.
Yeah, like kind of
And
intentionally, or
intent of not making intentionality like an idol where I'm trying to like have a deep, intimate conversation with every single person I hang out with. But like, I guess just learning how to balance that.
yeah.
Because I hung out today with my mom and my sister, who aren't like my biological mom. They're my best friend's mom and sister. And I just realized that I missed them a lot and I haven't seen them in a couple months. So we went out to Primanti Bros and got food, and just being able to catch up with them for a bit just helped me realize that like my life does mean a lot to other people, and I forget that.
Right on.
And it's not that I try to bring something to the table every time I'm with someone that makes it special, but there are people in my life that actually truly like love me and care about me, and I want to make sure that I have time available to spend with them because that is very important. And I was kind of short sighted on that for at least the past month and a half. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of where I've been.
Right on. That's rad. Yeah, it's always tough, like balancing. I think maybe we've talked about it before. I don't know if on the podcast or just in person, but just like I have a tendency to like, I don't really burn out on spending time with people. I could generally be around people most of the time. But I'm like one of those people that like needs that alone time that I kind of have to put intentional, effort into making the alone time. And it's especially been like challenging with being stay-at-home dad and stuff, because it's like that is chill time, or I guess maybe it's the potential to have like, alone time. But I feel like most days I'm focusing more on taking care of her and being present. And there are days that like we're mostly just home. Like today, for the most part, was one of those days that it wasn't. I didn't really have like I wasn't like meeting anybody up today. There are a few guys who played a show at our house last night, and they were here, so we got to hang for a little bit this morning. And that was really solid. But yeah, it's still like, like I'm not saying in any negative way, but just like having being around a little person all day. Sometimes it just doesn't feel like necessarily like alone time, recharge type thing. But
yeah.
So I'll usually get that like late at night when I'm working on stuff, like either when I'm working on wood stuff or after Kendra and Evelyn go to bed, and I'm just kind of hanging and just kind of relaxing. Sometimes I'll just like sit there and either read or just like sit in silence for a little bit, because it's like or even do something like just to me that's relaxing, like dishes, which I know that's not everyone's thing, but to me it's real chill. Kendra's waving, and she's thankful for you, Calvin. I think that's what she meant. Oh, dishes probably. Also you, Calvin.
Okay.
But yeah, hopefully that makes sense though. Like I'm not like stressed or anxiety filled during the day, but it's just like you're with your kid, and it's great and wonderful, but it's not relaxing and restful. I guess I'll put it that way. So yeah, just trying to like purposefully make time for some Josh time, because there are days that it's just like I feel like I have not had any time to process or like just to kind of like free my mind for a little bit. Yeah.
It's, I guess, like you're where I was, but the opposite end. We're like,
yeah.
Yeah, I've been.
We're just like, the same, but opposite.
but opposite, yeah.
Yeah,
it's like, man, like I need to spend more time with myself, and me, I'm more like I need to get away from myself and actually like hang out with people. Like I don't know, for me, I've been recently just like on like a bit of a fitness journey, and I've been more or less keeping it low key. I haven't been like posting pictures or anything like that, but I usually just like to go to the gym. So like after I get off work, when I have like energy, I'll like go work out, and for me, that's like it helps me get through my day. Honestly, like to have a place to like put like my efforts and things like that. And there are days where I like literally, and it's gonna sound really bad, but there are like literally some days where I'd much rather lift weights than talk to people. Oh my gosh, like the Lord's still working on me. A long way to go, but Like there are those days where I'm just like, I really just don't have the mental capacity to do this today. I just need to relax. So, but
This
I've
this barbell
over-entertained that.
this barbell ain't gonna insult me, bro. It's not gonna cut me down.
It's preposterously selfish, and even like I guess vocalizing it, it sounds really bad, but it's what it is.
No,
Like,
no.
I just want to be honest. I want to be real. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it's just kind of where I was at.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One thing that has I've really tried to be like encouraging Kendra with, and thinking about myself a lot, is like to purposefully find something, even like each day, that like brings my brain like a sense of rest, or like a sense of I guess recharging, you know. Because I think it's really easy to like in the downtime, I don't know if this is the case with you, but sometimes in my downtime it's like, all right, I'll toss on a podcast, or like I'll toss on something, or I'll just like scroll through emails or Instagram, and then like after the fact it's just like, oh, like I had 20 minutes that I could have just like been like, and by recharging I mean either sitting just like in the stillness, or doing a task that like just kind of lets me shut off my brain for a little bit, and and just like feel in a restful place. But usually I don't know, I feel like in today's day and age that doesn't usually come naturally, just because we're inundated with all these distractions. So
Dude, 100%. Like, anytime I've ever scrolled Instagram, I'm never the better for it. Like, besides a couple like cool breakdance videos, or a couple pro skaters I'll follow, or like Rick Pino's like worship post that always just kind of like really like gosh, that guy has like a lot of really cool stuff to say. But like honestly, besides that, it's more like, hey, I still need to lose weight. I need to meal prep better. I still need to make more money. I still need to acquire more things. I still need to look a certain way. And like, regardless as to whether or not you notice, those voices are being fed to you, like whether you realize it or not. And yeah, I'm way more sensitive in that area than I ever thought I was.
yeah.
So I've been trying to kind of not be on social media as much. So I don't know if anyone's listening and they've seen or experienced my lack of fake Facebook posting or stuff like that. Like, I'm kind of trying to take a break from having my mind mentally bombarded with everything that I don't really need, I guess, or just isn't helpful for me.
Oh, Kelvin, you don't need to defend that. Own it. Own your health.
I'm trying so hard.
Kelvin, what kind of coffee you got going on there?
Today's podcast is brought to you by 8 o'clock.
Oh, nice. Last time it was
This is
NyQuil.
Meyer
So
brand. Yeah, it was NyQuil. I was feeling like crap for the past week, but praise Jesus, I'm not feeling terrible, and I don't hate my throat anymore. But yeah, this is basically whatever was left downstairs at the church that we use on Sundays. So good plug, non-sponsored ad, but keeping me awake,
yeah, if you do own a coffee roastery and want to sponsor an episode, we would accept that. We would plug your coffee. Just saying. On the reels, though, we do have a Patreon page if anyone's interested in helping us fund this thing, because it's just it's just been out of pocket, and we're going to continue doing it as long as we can, but it would be appreciated. Just that way I can feed my child, because it comes out of her food money. No, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
that'd be terrible if that's what I said.
Poor Evelyn.
Yeah, I'm gonna send her another invite.
Yeah, we were just talking about the desetas, Chris and I, when we played our game of basketball, which was atrocious.
Tell us about that. I saw you post on Facebook the other day that you're playing Chris Bernstorff in a little game of ball. Did it
So
did it break something inside?
I mean, it was already broken because like I don't really do athletics like that. Like team sports weren't really my thing. Like I skateboarded and like rollerbladed in high school, so
Yeah.
very independent. But me and Dan Hassel and him like last year we're just talking about street ball and like wanting to play and remember how it was when we were kids. So we were like, yo, like I'm pretty sure we still got it. Let's try to like let's go play basketball. Let's go play 21. Just like let's try to relive like our childhood for a minute. And Chris was like super stoked on it. So he's like, dude, I'll literally go buy a basketball. Like we can make this happen today. So
That's
like
great.
we all go to the court, just like randomly, elementary court out in Woodhaven, and we got hustled real hard. What Chris didn't, what Chris didn't tell us is that he played ball in high school. So me and Dan are just thinking we're just gonna like shoot around and it's gonna be fun and just try to make shots or whatever. But like Chris is tenacious. Like that guy has drive. And like for a bigger dude, like he can hustle. Like it's crazy. He made us both look like children. I think we played 2 games. The first game, me, Dan, and him played. Like Dan played like probably the first 5 minutes and just like laid on the concrete in a puddle of sweat. And then me and Chris finished the game, and I think the score was like 21-5. And then, oh hey,
Here I am.
what's up? We were just talking about how bad Chris Burnsdorf schooled us in basketball and the valuable lesson I learned about.
Oh, Calvin, clear it up. Who do you mean by us? Because I wasn't part of the equation.
No, you should have been. I think I probably would have had a better chance of scoring more points if you and Chris were more focused on playing each other, and I would just grab the occasional missed air ball and try to do something with it.
I mean, I did play JV ball for a couple years there, so.
Oh, I definitely know you could play basketball. Chris didn't say anything. Like,
I played upward for 5 years, so I mean, basically
Dang.
a pro.
well, see, you learn new stuff every single day, and like, so for me, it was really, it was quite incredible. Like, it's a really good shot. It's a really good shot, and like his dad's a basketball coach, which I also didn't know. So I'm like, his shot was like very consistent the whole game, and plus I just suck at basketball, so I didn't know if it was him being really good or me being really bad. So
You know, I always forget that Chris is actually a jock. I always forget about that.
Yeah,
completely. It totally slipped my mind. Like, he's just a hardcore poet kid from the scene. Like,
No.
then you get on the basketball court and he's like first string shooting guard. Yeah.
not messing around, man.
Yeah, crap was funny, man. If you were there to see it, I'm glad I didn't live stream it. It was really bad. Everyone was asking like,
Can we do that as like?
live stream?
Can we do that as like a podcast exclusive? Live stream
my
your next game.
In person? Oh my lord.
Yeah.
I would have to train to get ready. I don't want to suck that bad ever at anything.
That's great.
I don't know.
Oh,
But-
Tina, thanks for joining us. I'm excited
Yeah.
to dive into things because I don't really know your story, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we're gonna dig deep tonight.
Cool.
Yes.
Calvin, do you want to open us up in a word of prayer, and then we'll hop into the conversation?
Yeah. Heavenly and gracious Father, Lord, we thank you, Jesus, so much for all that you've done, all that you're doing, Lord Jesus, and things seen and things unseen. And Father, we thank you for yet again another person whose life has been just radically touched and changed by you in the realest ways. And Lord, we ask that you be with us in our conversation, Lord, and as we share our testimony and as we share our story, let us all just be more aware of how good and how awesome you are. And let our eyes just be more fixed on how you're working and where you're working. I pray that this podcast, Lord, be edifying for both us and our listeners, Lord Jesus. If there be any of them out there going through similar or same like life instances, we just ask that you would speak into those things, speak so lovingly and so clearly. Yeah, Father, we love you so much. We thank you for Tina, and we bless you in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 All right, this is a Let Good Diet. Yeah. Yeah. This stuff happens, man. This is a Let God Die podcast. This is Josh.
And this is Calvin.
And our guest today is Tina Deseta. I met Tina when I was touring for Food and Friends Tour 3.
Yeah.
And she and her husband Joe and their cat TJ hosted us at their apartment. Is TJ making an appearance?
Yeah, he's right here.
Yes.
Hey.
Oh, he's so mad. He's
Poor
like,
dude.
woman, get off of me. There we go.
So they call their apartment TJ's World, which is pretty
Yes.
appropriate. I guess the cat kind of rules the place.
Yes.
Just want to say, like, you guys were really great hosts. And it was clear that I don't know, you had a pretty tight community. I don't know how often everyone gets together, but it seemed like people were they just cared a lot about each other, you know. And I can't say that about like every place that I've been to. There are a lot of places that you go where it's just like, you know, people are just kind of coming from all disconnected, you know, places, but it seemed like there were strong ties there. But yeah, so I don't really know your story and stuff, and I'm excited to dive into this. So,
Yeah.
But Tina, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are currently, and then maybe we'll get into some background.
Yeah. Who I am currently, I am Tina Deseta. My husband Joe and I live in downtown Fredericksburg, Virginia. I am a cat mom, I guess. I'm a crazy cat lady. But I also love all animals. I own a business. I own a small private studio where I do hair. I mainly specialize in color. And then I'm also a worship leader at my church. And that's about the gist of it. And I host the shows at our apartment. Yeah.
Have you guys always been, I guess, into supporting the scene and like giving people a space to share their art?
Yeah. Joe grew up in Richmond and I grew up in Southern Maryland. So where he grew up was a lot cooler for the music scene. Because he had like Richmond City, and on the other hand, I had a lot of Amish people around and stuff. So it wasn't really a thriving music scene around me. But I remember in high school, I started hanging out with more people in like the metal and punk scene, which we did have a pretty decent one when I was in high school. And I remember like going to all the shows and traveling to Virginia for some shows with like my boyfriend at the time. And I always really loved the community, but at the same time, I always wished that there was a little bit more. Because I felt like a decent amount of the relationships just weren't very deep. And I really have always craved deep, intimate relationships with friends. And so then fast forward, I moved to Virginia to get my hair license and met Joe, and we both loved music, connected on that really quickly. And after we'd been married for a few years, I had a friend tell me about Chris Bernstorff, of course. And I booked him and a few other friends who were more local musicians on a show. And honestly, it didn't go great. Like the show itself. Like we were actually trying to make some money, and mainly I was just trying to make money for the bands. And as all three of us probably know, that's really hard to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I think I made enough to send all of the bands who had traveled home with $5 each for gas.
Yeah.
And I worked so hard on it, and it just didn't pan out the way I was hoping it would. And so then Chris later reached out to me like 6 months later. He was like, "Hey, could I book a show at your house?" And I was like, "I guess so." I'm like,
if you want to come back.
Yeah. I was like, I guess we could do that. Which at that point, like when he had played that show with us, he actually lived in Northern Virginia. So at least he wasn't like traveling from Detroit or anything.
Yeah, super
but
far
I
away.
still felt so bad. I was like, I don't know if I can make this worth your while, but I guess we could do that. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work. And then to throw another monkey wrench in, we found out that we had to move like a month before the show was supposed to happen. And so we did have like this pretty spacious, decently spacious 3-bedroom house, like out in the country where there's plenty of parking. And we ended up moving to our little downtown apartment. And I messaged Chris and I was like, there's no way a show is going to work here. Like, there's no way. And he was like, you know what? Let's just try it. Let's just see what happens. Again, it's not a big deal if it doesn't work out. And so we did our first TJ's World show.
Yeah.
Back then, it was just Tina and Joe's place. And it went really well. We had not a ton of people, maybe like 10 to 12 people show up. But, you know, how house shows are, sometimes that's a really, really good amount.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Right.
that's exactly what you need. But yeah, so then after that, he just kept asking to book shows at my place. And I was like, really? You want? Oh, okay, that's fine. And then he kept sending more people. And then I think the next summer was when he did the Food and Friends tour. And after I met everyone on that tour, it's like things just kept building and growing. And so, yeah, Joe and I have always been like involved with the scene, but this has been really special and close to our heart.
Yeah.
Because like you were saying earlier that it seemed like everyone was super tight knit, but like the Food and Friends show, those were people from so many different walks of life. It wasn't like one community that we're a part of. It was like most of the people who were there had never met each other before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, their one thing in common was that they knew us or they knew someone that was playing.
Well, it seemed like a few of them that, I mean, yeah, I didn't realize that, but I guess a few of them seemed like they were really intentional in trying to get to know people. Maybe, you know, which I mean, I think if you have a little bit of that, you know, like, then it's like you can meet people even for the first time and feel like you've known them for a long time, you know?
Yeah.
That's really valuable to have that, you know, have people
Exactly.
like that in your life. That's rad.
Yeah. I intentionally try to surround myself with people who want to build community because I'm not the best at building community. I'm super introverted and very socially anxious.
Yeah.
So it's like my natural instinct is to lay in bed and watch Netflix all day with my cat. Like that's it. So surrounding myself with people who are like that, who want to put themselves in the uncomfortable position of making themselves known to others and getting to know others on a deeper level is really important to me.
Yeah. I think too, it speaks to the creativity of like how community is meant to work, where like every single person brings in like everything that they have. And when it's all pulled together, like everyone's social skills, everyone's backgrounds, everyone's hobbies, like you're bound to meet someone in that group that shares at least something similar.
Yeah.
And not to say that all community has to be based off of similar things, but like the more well-rounded, I guess, the group of people are, it takes the pressure off of, I guess, the person hosting the event to have to be that to every single person there, you know?
Yeah.
So like having other people there who are willing to actually like step out, like you were saying, and like facilitate that and be welcoming, like that literally is the way that it's built from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
At least in our experience, that's what we've seen. Like it's what's worked like with us. Like God's put some really awesome people here in Michigan. And like it literally wouldn't be what it is apart from every single person that plays a role in it. So there's no specific one person or one church that we can say is like the responsible for like what's been happening here, but it's been every single person deciding to like step out of their comfort zone and love the person next to them.
Yeah, that's good.
It's been sick.
I'm kind of glad that you brought up like the transition from a good sized house to an apartment and feeling like it wasn't a great place to host. Cause I don't know, I love talking about this. Like my house in Michigan was like a little 800 square foot house. That's where Calvin lives with a bunch of guys right now. But
Josh is my landlord.
Yeah. Which is interesting, but yeah, he's a good tenant. Calvin, you're a good tenant and a good friend. So, you know,
God bless you, man. I don't do it alone. Total team effort.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Forge.
Yeah, I really like hosting people. I like making people food. My version of making people food is like a bunch of pancakes or a bunch of French toast. Kendra's just giving me a smirk right now. She's like she's like full meal type person, which
Kendra.
is really great. Tina says hi, Kendra. She says she loves you.
Oh,
But
bro, you also do the BYOC parties, bro.
Yeah, or bring your own cereal, which is like far less prep, but it's still technically feeding people. But yeah, so there was a point in time that when we started hosting shows, it was just like, oh, we have such a tiny little space to host people here. But it ended up working out for one.
Yeah.
But there's a point in time that I was like really hard up for cash, and I went through a period of time, several months, where I budgeted like it was $10 a week for food, and I made that work for that time. But I was just like, I don't have like any resources to feed like people that are staying with me or like people that come to shows. I was kind of discouraged for a little bit. It was around that same time that other people started to contribute, Calvin being one of them. And that was just like, oh shoot, like I could have asked for like, to partner with friends in this. But I came across this quote in a book. I don't remember the whole quote because I think it was like a whole paragraph long. But the whole chapter was like about hospitality, and the effect was like you might be thinking that like you're not equipped to host people because like you have like a tiny little space or whatever, or that you're not like gifted with hospitality because you don't have much to offer. That was essentially it. But he just said like, well, then like maybe you can like invite people into your space and like the love will be what stands out, and like people will not draw attention, to what you're offering as far as, the stuff or the resources, but more so like God's love can pour out of you, out of like your humble space, out of your humble home, where it's just like nothing extravagant about the venue or about the space. But yeah, it just like really, I read it at a time that opened my eyes to like, man, like, I don't want to like limit what God can do through something that is like humble or, like kind of humiliating looking because it's in my eyes lacking. But yeah, that just like changed the way that I looked at most things. There's like, when there's opportunity and like something's on your heart, like who cares if like the person down the street does it better, like if that's like what God's called you to do or like put on your heart to do, like he's gonna do something through Tina and Joe and TJ that only is gonna come through you guys,
Yeah,
but
I agree. Well, and I'm such a people pleasing perfectionist
Yeah.
naturally, and so for like the first year and a half of hosting shows, I'm not like a clean, organized, tidy person at all. Like I'm a hot freaking mess. Like Marie Kondo, she would have a ball.
Oh, the Netflix lady, the tidying up
lady. She would go buck wild. Like I don't know if you saw the clip where she's looking in a drawer and it's all messy, and she's like, "I love mess," and she'd have a ball at my house. Like it's so bad. And before most shows, I'm like just scattering around, throwing stuff in random places, having a panic attack, whatever. And then people get there and I'm like playing it cool, like I wasn't just panicking, cleaning.
Yeah.
And my house usually still isn't clean by the time people get there. But the thing is, nobody notices or cares, and it doesn't matter because they're just happy to be in a place that they're welcome to be in. And I mean, not that I do think there's like a respect in kind of preparing your space for guests, but it's like if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter. Like you said, God's still going to use it, and like you can still be welcoming and be inviting without being perfect, which is like it's like a symbolism of kind of, I guess is a good transition of like what my heart is to help other people work through healing from trauma.
Yeah.
And like I am absolutely not like tidy and clean and perfect when it comes to my journey in my healing, if that makes sense. Like I'm a hot mess. I just finally for the first time signed up to work with an actual therapist, and not that like counselors through churches and stuff aren't a legitimate way of searching or working through your healing. But I know that I knew for years that I needed to take the next step and work with a licensed therapist. And I just kept putting it off. But God was still using me during that time to work with people and to minister to people who had been through trauma, who had been through horrifying things and like help them find the right steps to pursue their healing, even though my healing journey wasn't like ideal or perfect.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, go ahead, Kel.
I mean, you're in good company. I think you, along with any real Christian who's actually honest about where they are and like how much of Jesus they still need, like that's literally every one of us who've experienced the grace of God on a real level.
When
like
I think
our
about,
healing is never perfect.
Yeah, there are so many times where I've been in terrible places where like I'm not even following God and he still uses me, and it's crazy to me. It's insane. Like there was one point where I was like in my lowest of lows, and I remember leading worship during that time, and someone was like seriously touched by like a word that I gave or something, and that's like obviously not me. It's God. And especially considering like where I was at that point in my life, like it was definitely not me. And it just speaks to that verse, that his strength is made perfect in our weakness. Like literally when I'm at my weakest, he's still killing it.
All the time. See, praise God for that. Like at every point we are the beggars who know where the bread is. Like, you know, as a fellow worship leader myself, like I understand even the mental unrest that can happen when you're leading worship in a place where your heart's just at war. And like everything inside of you is like, you really shouldn't worship right now, but everything in you at the same time that's Christ is like, God is still God and I still have a reason. So like out of that place of just trusting that Jesus is good enough, like when you give him those 2 fish and 5 loaves you have left over, like he multiplies it for people you don't even think would even receive, you know? And like I've experienced that a few times where it's like, man, like Lord, you are really tremendous. Because there's no way I could have ever pre-planned for any of this to happen. Like,
and I mean, we're pointing people to him anyway, right? I mean, if
that's the point.
I mean,
we're not the standard.
Like if we're trying to point people to our goodness or you know us getting it right, like scratch that game.
You lose every time.
So Tina, going in that direction, I don't really know your story of like how you came to Christ or what your journeys look like, and if you want to kind of walk us through your background, and even like going into some of the healing that you brought up too, whatever you're cool with sharing.
No, for sure. So I guess I did come to Christ at like a really young age. I was probably like 4 when I told my mom that I wanted to invite Jesus into my heart. And I remember that moment. We were like on our couch and I just told her after watching something on TV. Like, forget, I was watching like Animal Planet and I was like, I think I want to be a Christian. Like just casual.
It's probably some feline that just resonated with your spirit in some way.
Or it was a boomer to Christ. I don't know. It was something like casual and cute. She probably remembers the details more. After that, it's interesting because I remember just throughout my childhood, I had a tough childhood, if I'm being real, like not trying to be too angsty, but like I was a very self-aware child, like extremely self-aware to a crazy point. And I think it brought on so much anxiety when I was younger. And so I struggled with anxiety. I struggled with, me and all of my siblings at some point were bullied in school. And I was more bullied in like elementary and middle school. And so there was a lot of little stuff that built up over the years and really ate away at my confidence. And I remember never really losing faith in God during that time. But like I never questioned God, but I questioned myself constantly. And I was constantly just so fearful that I wasn't doing enough or that I wasn't being enough. And then in middle school, when I was in 7th grade, or between 6th and 7th grade, I was sexually abused by a family member of mine. And that kind of brought everything to a head where, of course, my anxiety was like peak. And I was struggling with I was struggling with trying to figure out how to like tell my parents what was going on and how to navigate through it because I was only 12. And finally, actually, another family member of mine who had been going through the same thing,
Like from the same person?
Yeah, from the same person came forward, which like I thank God for every day because honestly, I don't know if I ever would have come forward.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I was just
so at that age, like when that other person came forward, did you also, or did that kind of like give you?
I didn't come
space?
forward voluntarily, but my parents met with our pastor and invited me into the meeting with the pastor, and they asked me in front of him.
Okay.
And it was one of those things, or that's always been the case in my life. If something like that to that extent is happening to me when I'm approached, I'm more likely to talk about it. I get frozen.
Yeah.
Paralyzed with anxiety and fear. And at that point, there was just a lot that truth. Well, so then after that, like I had to go through court mandated counseling and everything was just kind of a whirlwind.
Yeah.
And then after the counseling was done, I was just kind of in my mind, like, okay, I guess that's it. I guess like those 4 months of counseling, like that's all I need and I should be good now. And I remember having, we had like an interim youth pastor because we had something crazy happen with an old youth pastor of mine where he was fired for some indecent stuff. And so then the interim youth pastor pulled me into her office and asked me like how my relationship with God was going. And this was like a couple months after my abuser was arrested. And I was like 13, like, I mean, I guess it's going okay. Like, I feel fine. And she was like, well, I don't feel like it's going that well. And I really think you need to work on it. And I was just like floored.
Obviously didn't know any of background, right? I mean,
no, she did. She did know exactly what was going on.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was floored.
Yeah.
But so I was aware that wasn't okay. But at the same time, I was like, well, maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe I'm just not doing enough. Maybe I like keep
reinforce like that self pressure and
yeah, exactly. So that was the rest of my like middle school and high school life was just like trying so hard to make sure that I was doing enough. And then whenever I didn't do enough, I was like wrecked and just totally self-loathing and would just spiral at the drop of a hat. And so then I graduated high school early, which was a miracle considering where I was. But I graduated high school early, really with the help and support of my parents and my family, and my high school counselor. She was awesome. And then went on to become a hairstylist. I moved to Virginia because Maryland is where I grew up, and they didn't have any licensing programs where you could like do an apprenticeship and get paid for it. And I found out Virginia, I could go there and get paid for an apprenticeship. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm going there. So went to Virginia, started an apprenticeship, and I, again, got a lot of those negative feelings reinforced throughout my apprenticeship because, I mean, my whole job is trying to help people feel like they look good.
Yeah.
And if people didn't like how they looked, they'd be pretty savage, pretty brutal. And so in a way, I am grateful for that time during my apprenticeship because it was so like difficult, and I really, really had to rely on my family, on my friends, on God to like pull me through that. But it was tough, and I definitely like fell into a lot of my unhealthy mindsets again. So yeah, then Joe and I met around that time. We got married really young. We got married at 19 and 20.
Oh,
we were
wow.
about to turn 20 and 21. Yeah. And like, I really feel that God sent Joe into my life for a reason, like the moment I met him. And he has always been, even when he hasn't totally understood like the battle that goes on in my mind, he's always worked so hard to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he doesn't get it, he really works hard to make sure he gets it by the end of our conversation. And so there have been so many times where I was falling into that spiral. And even if he started getting frustrated because he didn't know what to do, he'd still just stand by me until I was able to work through whatever I was struggling with. So yeah, I feel like God's really shown me through mine and Joe's relationship, like just grace, that like it's okay if I don't have it all figured out as far as the healing process goes and as far as my mental health goes. And I'm really grateful for that. Yeah, I feel like I was kind of going off for a little bit, but that's the basic gist of my story. Now, for a long time, I was, I guess, just in and out being involved with some ministries that weren't necessarily bad, but weren't necessarily like helpful for me. And then one morning I woke up and I was at a church that I have no issues with, but I didn't feel like I was connected at all. And I woke up one Sunday and God was like, go to this church. So I went and visited the church that I'm currently at, that I've been at for the past several years. And it's been incredible. God just brought so many people into my life who like see me for who I am and see me the way God sees me and really love me so well. And I mean, there are a lot of like really Pinteresty, like put together moms at my church. That's a lot of the people that I'm friends with.
Yeah.
And it just like doesn't make sense to me that all these people that I feel like have it more together than me are like my friends and want to be my friends. But God's been teaching me, like, I guess, just how enough I really am and how he's made me enough. And he's put me with these people that I didn't necessarily think that I'd click with.
Yeah.
He's like proven me wrong.
It's a cool thing about just like, getting involved with like community and body of Christ, where it's like, just being tight with people that you would never choose to be tight with, you know? When it's like, we have nothing in common, but we have like, I don't know, just like the fact that we want to know Jesus in common, you know? And, just clinging to that.
Yeah,
like, because at the root, that's always enough. Like, I kind of feel like there's a oneness that you have with a person who also understands like their need for Jesus. And it's a beautiful thing because like within that relationship, there's usually vulnerability that happens really fast. Like, they know that they have nothing, that they don't feel judged when they talk to you and vice versa. And they don't feel as if you're going to misuse information they tell you against you, and you feel the same way because you both understood how much you've been forgiven. So like there's like a common bond that happens. It's actually freakish, man. Like,
yeah.
Like people who see like me and Andrew, for example, like Andrew A. Like when we go out in public, one of my coworkers at Route 21 was like, how long have you known those guys? Like, you guys seem like you guys are really tight. And I was like, I really only known Andrew for like 6 years. But like, you think we grew up together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, those like deep levels of vulnerability makes like that much more community, that much more tight knit, and like it's really, I guess it shows. I didn't know it showed, but apparently to other people who don't know us, like it totally shows how in bond that we are, and I think that's the beauty of the church too.
Yeah. Now that's one thing I love. I've been telling people that the community of musicians and artists that I've met through doing the house shows, it's almost like my extended church family. Like you guys are like my cousins in Christ. Like people I don't get to see all the time, but I feel that really close, strong bond with. And like I just remember meeting like Jay, for example. We all know and love Jay.
Yeah, she's good. I love Jay.
I remember meeting her and just being like blown away at the fact that she immediately gave me like just the sweetest, warmest hug. And I was like, you don't even know me, but this is great. I love it. Keep going. And it's funny because we've only hung out a couple of times outside of like her playing a show that either I'm hosting or that I'm at. But like the first time we hung out one-on-one, we went and got food together and then watched The Office and fell asleep on my couch. And it was like the best hangout session I've had in a really long time. And it was just nice to feel that level of comfort with someone that I just haven't known for that long. And I mean, same with everyone. I call everybody my Flood City community because, like, I know that I'm going to see everybody at Flood City Fest. So, like, just knowing that when I get there, I'm going to be overwhelmed with love. And there are going to be so many people that, like, I've probably only met a couple of times. But once I see them, I'm just going to want to wrap them in a big hug and ask them about everything that's happened since the last time I saw them. And it's just, like, honestly kind of miraculous when I look back at how I grew up and how I didn't really fully understand that sense of community. At that moment, I didn't think it was possible. I longed for it. I really wanted it, but I didn't think it was an actual thing.
So, Tina, going back a little bit with, you talking about like thinking that it might just be a few months of counseling and then you'd be good.
Yeah.
And then I know that you've had a heart for walking through like similar things with other girls.
Yeah.
But like for yourself, like, are you cool with sharing like a little bit of the road of healing?
Yeah. It's been very much like not linear at all, which I know is normal.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was for a long time. I was like, this should be just going on a steady incline, right? So yeah, I went through counseling, that court mandated counseling, when I was like 12 going on 13. And then after that, I think a couple of years later, I shared with a youth leader that I was having like suicidal thoughts around my abuse. And I was just really confused. And she actually was the first person to encourage me to share my story, which when I look back, I'm like, I don't know if that would have worked for everybody. But I feel like she was really...
Do you think she knew that like that would be something that would be healthy for you?
Yeah. I think she really leaned into God and really like prayed through that response to me. Because I remember, I mean, I'm not a good public speaker at all. And I was like 14 and she asked me to preach one night.
Oh,
she
really?
was like, you should preach. She was actually, she was the current youth pastor's wife. And she, which this was, we had like 4 youth pastors in the time I was in high school. And these were my favorite. I clicked with them so well and I love them so much. And they were like, yeah, you should preach this one night. Just share your testimony and then share something that God put on your heart. And so like I shared a Bible verse and then talked about my story, and it wasn't really well curated, or again, it just wasn't perfect, and God still used it. A lot of people like either had, I guess, kind of sobering moments that night hearing my story and what I had been through. And then there were a few people who came forward to me who said that they had been through the same thing, and that they'd been feeling alone. And so it really, I mean, it was a risky thing for her to ask me to do that at that age, but I think it did free me up a little bit. And made me realize that like my story is powerful. And so then going forward, I don't know, there were years where I just completely ignored that it was a part of my life, or it just didn't seem important at the time. But then a few years ago, I was actually at, all the multi-level marketing companies, like, So there's one
like pyramid scheme type things.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's one called Unique, and they're like a makeup company. And I had a friend invite me to a party that she was having at her house, and I was like, ugh, I don't want to go to this. But I had another friend who was like, please come, I want to go, and I think it'll be fun if we go together. And it turned out it was. But then the best part about it was that the girl who was like selling the makeup, she explained that the mission behind Unique is to raise money to be able to put on these retreats for women who were abused as children, sexually abused as children. Yeah. Wow. And that like that sobered me up. I was like, whoa. I was like, I've been crapping on these businesses left and right, and like some of them actually have a legitimate
Yeah.
legitimate
Dang.
calling behind them, and that's incredible. And so I thought that was amazing, but I was just like, that doesn't apply to me. Like, I already went through counseling. I'm fine. Like, I'm okay. And then about close to a year later, I had like a mental breakdown, and I was just like, I need something. I need something now. And the girl who had hosted that party happened to share a link that day.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Just so happened by chance.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
like, just
wild.
wanted to let y'all know this is something that the Unique Foundation does. They throw these retreats, and it's like, I forget how many weeks out of the year. It's like 40 something weeks a year they'll host these retreats, and in between they'll do like trainings for their counselors and therapists and facilitators. And so I signed up for it, and I knew there was going to be a catch somewhere because it said it was a totally free retreat. I'm like, BS, whatever. Like, we'll see.
Wait for it.
And then they email me back and give me a list of dates that I can choose. And I choose the dates, and I'm like, all right, so is there any catch? Like, are you guys going to try to sell me makeup when I'm there? Like, what's going to happen? And so then after that,
Oh, Tina, we lost your video.
yeah, I'm back. My
Okay.
camera.
Gotcha.
Shut up.
I mean, if it doesn't come back, no big deal. But
I'll come back in a minute.
All right.
But yeah, so then I get an email a couple days later, and the woman on the email is just like, yeah, no, it's totally free. Like, there's no catch. Just show up. And I was like, okay, like, what do I bring? She told me what to bring, and she told me not to overpack because they were going to give me a lot of stuff while I was out there. I was like, okay. And so the only thing I had to do was pay for my flight, and I got help finding like a really good flight for a really good price, really good hotel room, because I was going to have to stay overnight somewhere. It's out in Utah. And that was another thing. I told everybody I was going out to Utah for a retreat, and they were like, are you sure? What's going to happen out there?
Yeah.
But I get out there, and just from the time I landed in Utah to the time I left, like, God had so many amazing things like lined up for me. Like, even when I was at the hotel the night before the retreat, like the next morning I get up, get the continental breakfast, and the waiter, like, apparently I thought the continental breakfast was free. It was not. So I get the food, I sit down, and the waiter gifts me with the breakfast. He's like, you know what? I'm going to make sure you get this for free. And he just sits and talks with me, and then ends up praying with me.
Hey.
That's
Which
right.
I was just like, what? This is crazy. So then I get to the retreat, and just every moment of it was like curated so perfectly to show us that we were loved, that we were cared for, that we were safe. Like, even the fact that they have this retreat center, and it's like nestled in the mountains in Utah, and it's just so like cozy and so safe feeling. And it was just a beautiful experience. And to leave that and realize, like, I didn't have to pay for any of this. Like, someone just gave this to me.
Yeah.
It was just incredible. And then realizing that, like, creating an intentional space for women to feel safe, to be able to open up about their abuse, is so, so important. And so I started really trying to be more intentional with that. And I'm not perfect, obviously, but even like in my salon, I have been working really hard to curate the space to be good for people who have anxiety, or who have like chronic stress or something that might make the appointment less enjoyable for them. Like, down to the color that I had the wall painted, and like the lighting and everything. I just tried to make everything feel really soothing and comfortable. And I feel like God's just been leading me to create those comfortable spaces as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. That's such a huge blessing, man. Such a huge blessing. Like, just know that there are people out there who aren't like so stuck on making money with like building a brand, but they're actually doing it to help other people heal like move forward. Like
Yeah.
that's incredible. I've never heard
Yeah.
of anything like that before, especially like with makeup. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
because a lot of the brands that you get with those types of things, like not to blanket statement, but a lot of it tends to be really superficially driven.
Oh yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, to know that there's like a brand that's out there that's actually not doing it for the sake, but makeup is like the means, but like the why behind it is like people healing
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
from
that's it.
like
Yeah.
ultra traumatic stuff.
And that's
And
it.
even like at one point, they did like a makeover for us and did a little photo shoot. And I remember intentionally like asking the girl who was doing my makeup, I was like, hey, so are they making you use unique makeup? And she was like, actually, no, they won't let me use unique makeup.
Right on. That's really
I
great.
was like,
Wow.
all right.
Killer.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what was life like for you coming back home after that retreat? Like,
I didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
I just wanted to stay in the mountains of Utah and heal forever. Yeah, it was honestly, it was hard. It felt like a little bit shocking getting back, which thankfully I decided to take the retreat. Like I was gone. I'm trying to think. I was gone like Sunday through Friday morning. I took a red eye back, and I ended up taking the next couple of days off work just to make sure that I could kind of recoup and ease back into reality.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good because they made sure that we made connections throughout the week. Like at the beginning of the week, it was a classic thing where like no one knew each other. We were encouraged. They actually, I believe it's a rule when you enroll to be on the waiting list to go. They ask you to not come with anyone you know. They really want it to be like fresh and raw and just allow you to meet all new people and have no one. Like sometimes when you enter into something like that to heal from past trauma, if you have someone who's been with you through any of that healing process, it can kind of hold you back.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was really cool just meeting, like, I think there were 28 of us and meeting 27 other girls and women of all ages. I mean, I think the oldest woman who's been at that retreat was like 72.
Wow.
And going to that retreat was her first time ever dealing with her healing process.
Yeah.
Like that was her introduction to it, which proves that it's never too late for
Amen.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there were a lot of women of all ages, all backgrounds. It was really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of what I've been thinking about as you were talking is just like, I've been thinking a lot about like, just like patience with people's processes. You know, just like, I know sometimes from the outside looking in, and I'm saying more like when it comes to minor things, you know, like times that it's just like, you know, like maybe recognizing like, man, like they really like need to heal, you know, where with like real legit trauma like this, it's like, I don't know how to identify, you know, like in a way that it's like, you know, clearly healing needs to take place, but at the same time, like, yeah, that could look like when you're 72, you know, like finally being at a place of recognizing like, all right, this is still haunting me, or I don't know, whatever it may be. But yeah, I guess what have your thoughts been knowing other people, and just maybe from the outside looking in, like as far as I don't know, just like how we as people can like be patient with other people's processes when they might have completely different timelines from ours. And I guess were there people that that respected that in you, as far as like recognizing like, man, Tina does need something, but we're not going to push her too fast towards that. I know there are like several thoughts in there, but
yeah. I feel like for me, again, I'm a perfectionist. Sometimes the problem with my type of perfectionism is that I do tend to camouflage my weaknesses as well as I can.
Yeah.
I'm very type A, and I love being seen as put together, which, as I mentioned earlier, I'm absolutely not.
Yeah.
And so when people figure out that I'm not put together, they're like, whoa, hold the phone. So it's tough because I don't think anyone actually like recognized how deeply I was in need of healing unless they were really, really involved in my life, like super deeply, like Joe.
And I guess
like,
you didn't even realize that before that point,
yeah,
you know, like,
yeah, like Joe and a couple of my close friends, they knew exactly how deep in I was, like,
yeah.
and how messed up I was. And so yeah, I never experienced quite, or I probably did, but I never really noticed it, the level of like impatience that some people can have with the healing process.
Yeah.
But I've seen it. Like I've had people approach me before on behalf of their loved ones and saying like, I really think she needs to do A, B, and C, or he needs to do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
But he's just not doing it. And I'm saying that from a place of having been there before and having been frustrated by loved ones not doing what I think they should be doing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not going to throw the first stone, but I don't know. It's just really hard. It's really hard when you see someone going through something and maybe not dealing with it in the best way. And that's where I say the best thing to do is just think about what Jesus would do and think back on the stories where Jesus was dealing with people who were majorly screwed up. And he just said stuff to them like, okay, go and sin no more. Or, you know, just met them exactly where they were and gave them just a practical next step, just a loving next step. But the thing is, if someone who's been through trauma isn't asking you for a next step, they're probably not going to listen if you give them one.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's a fair assumption. And because I've been there, and if people give me one without me asking, I just get mad.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of just like leaving it up to God to convict them where they need it, but loving them to that point.
And I loved what you said about like cultivating space. Where that's, I mean, yeah, I think that's like a beautiful thing, you know, just to not force, you know, not to manipulate, obviously, but, you know, clearly with the unique retreats, you know, like that was something that they intentionally were doing, and I'm assuming still are, in a way that's like creating space for those conversations and for that healing to take place. That's really great.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's hard. It is really hard to create safe spaces.
Yeah.
It's really uncomfortable. It kind of rolls into the whole like millennial snowflake type of stereotype that people are always making fun of. People don't like a lot of people don't like the term safe space because they feel like it's too, I don't know, too soft or whatever. That's cool. People can think that. That's fine. But the thing is, that's what we need. That's what everyone needs at some point. And
yeah, like,
go ahead, Calvin.
Go. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Compassion.
Yeah.
Is a key characteristic of who Jesus was, and I guess like even for me, in a place where I myself have never been a victim of that at all, and when faced with people who have like I myself have been guilty of like, you know, being impatient with that healing process after knowing a person for X amount of years, and understanding that process is not linear and that it is a day by day thing. Like cultivating that space and walking in compassion is the best way to get that person to, I guess, feel invited to take their next step. and love them into that next step rather than trying to like, ABC it 12-step program and like that stuff doesn't work.
Yeah.
And like compassion is a key component of who Jesus is. And, people can call it a safe space. You can call it a safe space. That's totally fine. But like the compassion is the root of it. Like we all need to be more compassionate with one another and more
Yeah.
sensitive to where we are in our individual seasons. Cause like, Jesus says like, call no man your teacher. You have one teacher, the Spirit of God. Like, with that being the case, like we all know where we're in places where we know the right thing to do. And you don't need anyone to tell you to take X, Y, or Z step. Like, what that next step is. It's more a matter of like stepping into it and like trusting Jesus with that, and you only want to do that when you're ready. I guess
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. But like, yeah, to walk with that person compassionately and like still cheer them on and just know that they're hurting. Don't try to force a conversation or manipulate it into a certain direction. Just kind of allow them to be
Yeah.
and just serve them in the meantime if words fall short. Like that's one of the things I guess I'm learning too as I'm like growing. That's very important.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I tell people a lot, because I have, again, had a lot of people come to me on behalf of their family members or friends. And I've just reminded them, like, I totally understand that you're frustrated, but they're not going to pursue healing until they're ready, and they shouldn't.
Yep.
I think God wired us in such an amazing, intricate way. One thing that the Unique Foundation taught at their retreat is how the brain actually works after trauma. And I'm a little rusty right now, but I know that basically, like when you're in the midst of being abused, your mind will shut down. And so knowing that over time, those things that the brain shut off as they were happening can and probably will resurface at the most inconvenient times. That's one reason why if I would have just tried to deal with all of my trauma first thing right after I experienced it, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. I assume like, especially being in such like formative years, like, and yeah, it's just multifaceted, obviously.
Yeah. And that's, it's one thing, this is such a touchy subject, but it shouldn't be. It was really hard for me with some of the stories about sexual abuse that were in the news earlier this year, where women were being accused of lying because they, quote unquote, suddenly remembered abuse they had gone through. And it just broke my heart because there was something that got brought back to me this year that I didn't remember happened in high school. And it completely wrecked me. And I legitimately had totally blocked it out of my mind. And then suddenly it resurfaced at like the worst time.
Yeah.
And it really, like some of the stories I was hearing in the news, it just made my heart go out to them so much more. Cause I'm like, I know exactly where you're coming from right now. And you know what? Some of those women might be lying, but based on the damage that I've seen that's happened when women haven't been believed, or when anyone hasn't been believed when they come forward about abuse, there's so much damage that comes from that. And most of the women that I met at the retreat I went to had gone to their family and had been told that they were lying.
Gosh.
Like, and most of the women had been abused by family members, and that's why their family didn't believe them, because their family couldn't believe that someone so close would do that.
I feel like that's the story that I hear almost every time.
Yeah.
That I've talked to friends who have gone through similar things. I don't have anything to add to that. It's just, it's heartbreaking. And
I'm blessed that my entire family believed me.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. It really is. And I'm grateful for it every day. And I'm grateful that none of them made me feel like I was crazy or made me feel like it was my fault, because that doesn't happen. A lot of the time that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But back to what I was saying, it's just important for us to allow people to, like you guys were saying, like go through the process that they need to go through. And the process is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And creating a like safe and compassionate space for people is really hard and it's really uncomfortable. And I think God made it that way on purpose. It's uncomfortable because love is uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
It is, but it's so fruitful, and
It
like
is.
it's definitely a like Josh brought it up last podcast. The sexy word long suffering.
Yeah.
That word it can seem painful, and it can hurt to watch a friend of yours who's either been through a traumatic experience like that just go through the motions of the up and the down, and sometimes they're really really down and feeling almost powerless to help them.
Yeah.
And like it'll weigh on you as a person, but you have to like cast those burdens to Jesus and allow them to walk through it, because like the Lord promises like that our suffering is not in vain, and he doesn't waste bad things. Like he doesn't cause them to happen, but he doesn't waste them. Like
Yeah.
there will be redemption in it, and like that's the hope. So yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing to watch. Like I have a lot of my friends here who struggle with varying levels of depression, and to the point where it's crippling. And it's really hard because you love them and you know how much like they're worth, and like how much light they bring to a place when they're there, but the fact that they're missing is like it really kind of like it stirs you on the inside, and
Yeah.
it's hard, but it's when you allow that person to walk through what they're walking through, like the Lord always brings it back in his revelation. And when God does it, it sticks. When we try to do it, it's usually there for a moment, gone the next. But when the Lord does the work, it always sticks. So yeah.
Frick, man.
I'm so sorry for like what happened. Like I
Thank you.
deeply apologize. And it's really cool talking to you, because like in our conversation, like I would have never known that about you. So it's really cool to see how covered in Christ you are. Like though that was a part of your past, is not who you are. And that's like really cool to see, Tina.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and that's one thing I did want to say, just in case there was anyone who like listens to this, and this is something in your past, is that like if you haven't dealt with this, there's still time. There's plenty of time. Like God will give you the time that you need to pursue the healing that you need, but the sooner the better. Because this stuff can just weigh down for so long, and the longer that you hold it in, the more painful it is to work through. And so I just hope that anyone who listens to this, if you haven't gotten the opportunity to talk with someone, to reach out to a therapist, to pursue healing, I hope that you do. And I'm praying that anyone who's listening who like resonates with this story, that they do step out into that next step of healing, because everyone's on a journey. So everyone who listens, who relates to me, has a next step.
Yeah. And Tina, for I don't know, for anyone who is listening, I mean, I don't know if this will be the case, but if there is anyone who feels like, man, like I do see that I need to, I don't know, meet with somebody or reach out. I don't know, like I'm sure that it's probably very common for people to recognize that they need to walk into that, but have zero idea where to start. And I know not everyone's journey is the same, but like, what are your thoughts as far as maybe first steps with that?
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, it's hard. it is hard, you're right. And like I'm coming from a place where like I'm not I don't have healthcare. I don't have like amazing benefits with my job because I'm self-employed. Yeah. And so it's been a really hard journey for me, and it's been a lot of kind of scraping together what I need. I'll say if you're a Christian and you trust people in your church or in your community, reach out to people who you feel are safe to reach out to. Also, the Unique Foundation, they do have a website. I think it's the it's uniquefoundation.org. I believe that's it. And they have a bunch of resources. They have like free ebooks. They have all these exercises, whether like they're emotional exercises or physical exercises. They have all these other resources and ways to link you with other people who are going through healing journeys, as well as the opportunity to apply for their retreat. There are apps if you're looking for a lower cost therapist, like BetterHelp. That's where I signed up for my therapist, and I'm not regretting it.
Yeah.
And they actually, I think they offer a free trial your
Nice.
first week, which kind of sounded funny to me. I was like, I feel like I'm signing up for Netflix or something.
But you have had a good experience with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so far I've had a good experience, and they have a lot of options. They had options for if you wanted a faith-based counselor, or if you wanted a counselor that, for example, specializes with like eating disorders or
Wow.
all kinds of stuff. Yeah, they were able to specify it. And if you're not happy with your counselor, you're able to switch if need be. They have tons of counselors at your disposal, and they also have financial aid options. By the way, this episode is not sponsored by BetterHelp, but maybe it should be.
Yeah, but I mean, but at the same time, like if it's, I don't know, if it's a matter of tossing people resources that have worked for you, you know, like
exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, the problem is that everyone has a different journey, and it's really hard, and you have to fight through it. It's just not easy. But at least if you know it's not easy, you know going into it, instead of just having to experience it firsthand. But like I have like my friend Janelle Marie, the best poet in the world. Sorry,
She's killer.
Josh.
No, she's great.
She is like my person. She's one of my people that I reach out to when I just need, when I need to have that conversation with that friend. She's the person. And finding that person in your life, someone who's safe, someone who will validate your feelings, but will also call you out on your BS. Like, you need those people. That's really important for the healing journey. And it really, I feel like it should be a peer. That's my opinion, at least. That's what I've experienced. That's gone well.
Yeah. You need someone that's you don't necessarily feel is going to like talk down to you, but you need someone who actually kind of understands, knows like the biases of your life, and can like weed out like what is from what could be or what just isn't. So yeah, I'm really glad you said that. Yeah, like having a peer, super, super important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and having mentors in your life is good too. And one thing I heard on another podcast recently is that mentors don't have to be someone that's in your life. It can even be like someone, for example, whose podcast you like. That can be a mentor in your life, even though they're not directly teaching you.
Yeah.
Being able to take knowledge from them and kind of learn truths and learn the things you need to learn at your own pace, but also definitely having someone in person who is more experienced than you, but is humble enough to like step down to where you are and work with you where you are, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Indeed, man. I feel like I'm glad you brought that up, Kel, about just like the long suffering thing. Like that's been
Bye, Pastor Tackett. Love you too.
that's been like recurring theme recently, which I don't know. Even a lot of things that you said, Tina, as far as like I know that my attitude, whether or not I like say this out loud, has been, man, like if they could only like realize this, and I'm just talking about like people that are dealing with like addiction issues or just like in ruts in life, and I mean, for some of them, I don't know the backstory of what, like I don't know, some of them may have been through things that I'm not aware of, and regardless, just that, I don't know, that hit me really hard as far as like just wanting to take a step back and like just be there, just be present. and walk through things, whether that's a lifelong path and they, are forever in that rut, whether something happened that got them in that rut, or it's just dealing with life or dealing with depression. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of processing things. So
Yeah, it's a tough conversation because we just have to realize that we don't know what
Yep.
other people are going through, and we never will fully, even like the people who we're closest to.
Mhm.
So just being humble and knowing that we can be there for them without telling them what to do or
Yep.
without giving them well-meaning advice. And that's hard. I mean, again, I'm type A, I'm a perfectionist. I can be a know-it-all. And there have been times where God's just told me, you know what, just shut up and love this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Story of my life. Yeah. Long suffering works, and the cross is proof.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shortcut.
Yeah.
The longer I live, the longer I'm starting to figure that out. Like, and for me, I'm a fixer. I guess even in some places in my own life, like I don't like to dwell in places that are like hard. Like I'm solution driven when it comes to like my emotional health. Like if things are off, I do whatever I can to make sure they're like, all right, here's how I'm gonna get out. This is the plan. Like if I'm feeling bummy, I'm not gonna listen to sad music. I'm gonna go do something active. I'm gonna go do something I love. Like I try like my best to make sure I'm on top of that stuff. But like yeah, I'm a fixer. So like in the past, I've been the worst person to talk to about long suffering or doing sad things. I'm more like, this is what's going on. This sucks. All right, this is how we're gonna get out. Like, boom, boom, boom. Let's lay out this plan. And so much of life is not like that.
Yeah,
it's just not. So
well,
much
and
of it
okay.
is.
Like, if you're someone who's like dealing with something heavy, it's okay to tell your friends, like, hey, I don't need you to fix this.
yeah,
Like, hey, I just need you to be here. Like, I just need you to be present. Because sometimes we do need to hear that when we care so much about a person that we just want to fix whatever's going on. We just want to, we want to save them. We want to bring them out of that rut. But sometimes we just got to be there. That's good.
for sure. Well, Tina, we'll wrap up there.
Cool.
Thanks so much for sharing and just for your willingness to share just like really deep, difficult stuff, but
seriously,
just trusting that, I don't know, that's going to connect with somebody. And even if, whatever that looks like. And we'll post those links to those resources that you mentioned.
Totally.
But thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, totally.
We'll see you at Flood City Fest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Anyone in the vicinity of central Pennsylvania. Well, actually, no matter where you live, just get there.
Just get to Flood.
Yeah, but it's a festival that some of our friends put on, and it's about 35 bands in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Calvin will be there, right? I think.
Yes.
Tina and Joe will be there. TJ will not. So I don't know if that influences you to go because you don't like cats, or if whatever. But but yeah, thanks a ton, Tina, and we'll let you know like when we post this.
Cool.
It'll probably be a little bit because we have
no worries.
We're kind of ahead of things right now.
Sweet.
Definitely, like keep persevering. Like you're doing so well.
Thank you.
You're doing so well, and like I'm glad that God gave you Joe to like be a helpmate.
Yeah.
Even in moments where he doesn't get it, he wants to. Like that probably means the world in moments where it's the hardest. So, dude, you guys are awesome. I seen you briefly at Chris and Amanda's wedding.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a chance to talk to either of you guys. So I'm like, I don't know them.
You probably
like,
saw him flipping around on the dance floor.
Yeah, I don't. I think we threw down and like knocked loose for a second when they put that on like, towards the end of the wedding after all the formalities and all the parents left. Like that happened, but yeah, like you guys, like, the Lord's doing something so fierce and so powerful in both of you, and like, you probably don't realize how much your marriage actually speaks life over people. But please, like, just keep going. Like, you guys are doing so good.
Thank you.
Thanks for being honest and real.
Yeah, totally.
Indeed. Well, thanks, Tina.
Sweet.
And,
Thanks.
yep. We'll see you soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yep.
Bye.
Later.
Cal, dude.
Prozac. Wow.
Yeah, legit, man.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, like me and Calvin. Yeah, I hope you. Yeah, anyone who's listening, even if like nothing that Tina talked about like applies to you, I know I'm gonna make it a point to check out that unique company, you know, just to kind of see what they're up to, and yeah, it's such a valuable thing.
Yeah.
Really rad. But yeah, so we'll post those links in the comments. Yeah, again, we're not affiliated with them in any way, but if there are organizations doing really cool things for people who need it, like, we want to draw attention to them. So yeah, go ahead and check that stuff out, and yeah, until next time. I figured we'd just kind of end it.
Yeah.
But
man, what a cool story.
Yeah.
Such a cool story. Like, it I think a lot of what she said, like, speaks to the person who has been abused, you know, in that way, that there is hope and there is light at the end of the tunnel. And also for people who have not been victims of such things, like, for us to like know and understand how to walk through life with people who have, you know.
Yeah.
Even in a little bit of time that we like talked to her, man, like, there was like so many times where I was just straight up failed at loving people, you know. Like, it never got to a point where I never denied like a victim who's ever come to me and told me that they've been going through X, Y, or Z. I've never denied the truth that happened or the validity of it. But for me, like, the process of them healing, I've completely undermined a lot of things in my life, and there are people that I've hurt for that reason. And even in that conversation with her, like, so much of it is going to be long suffering and day by day, moment by moment, like, intentional loving that person and enduring when times are hard and they don't want to be around, or they don't want to talk, or they don't want to see you. Like, it's going to feel personal, but just to know that you can't take it personal. And I guess for me, I have taken it personal before. So yeah, a lot of learning, I feel like, in this podcast. It's so good.
For real, man.
Really, really cool. Well,
indeed.
Hey-o. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I need to hop off and just kind of process some things.
Yeah,
but
no worries. I get it.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, Cal. And
yo,
I love I love having like intense conversations with people with you. Just because the way that you respond, just, I don't know, really reflects the heart of Christ in really cool ways. And there's time and time again where where like really tough things are said that I'm just like, I have no words, and I think you have no words too, but like the words that you do speak, I'm just like, yeah, that's what needed to be said, you know. I think that, I think that's very much just Holy Spirit in you, you know. But
Amen,
yeah,
dude.
I appreciate it, and
yo,
I'm thankful, you know.
No problem, man. Anytime. Like, God's been so good. It's all him.
Indeed. Yeah, love you, man.
Yeah,
and
love you too, dude.
Yeah, we'll talk real soon.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, buddy. All right.
Love you, dude.
Yeah, you too.